Hi, and welcome everyone to the second episode of The Art of the Card. Today we have an incredibly talented artist on with us to discuss his unique pieces in the world of custom card art. Before we get started, a huge thank you to everyone who watched, liked, and commented on our first video. It means a lot to Chris and I as we get started with this brand new channel. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at The Art of the Card Pod. Luke the Cardist, thank you so much for joining us. Chris, I'll go ahead and let you take it away since you were the first person to reach out to Luke about coming on
Yep.
Art of the Card.
Yeah. So, as everybody knows, we're a brand new channel, new Instagram page, and as I was scrolling through all the various accounts of creators and custom card artists, Luke's page just like stood out incredibly to me. The variety of styles of the paintings and everything like that. So, reached out. Here we are today, Luke. Honestly, this is awesome to have you as like our first guest. We are thrilled. We're honored to talk to you about kind of your process and what you do. So, do you want to share a little bit about yourself and where you're from, and give everybody a quick
Yeah,
intro?
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, first of all, yeah, thank you guys for having me. Honor is all mine. I love what you guys are, trying to do with the podcast and in the hobby, and I really think it's an important time in the collectors, and then whether it's art, whether it's sports cards, whether it's an important time where everything I feel like is all coming together, in collectibles and the art side of things and the sports side of things are coming together in a really cool fashion. So it's cool to be a part of it. I'm from Houston, born and raised in a town just north of Houston, Texas. So grew up in Texas, played sports, and loved art. So that was kind of my whole spiel all the way through high school. Like I had my friends that I played my sports with, and football and baseball, and then I also played in bands, and I loved doing my art. And so I kind of was dipping my toes in both sides growing up. So art's always been a part of everything that I do. Creating, like I can't just stay stagnant and not be creating something. So it's kind of always been underlying throughout the years. I've just always liked to be creative, and but at the same time, diehard sports fan, diehard sports fan. So
Yeah.
grew up, like I said, in Texas, but the Texans are my team. But I'm a diehard San Francisco Giants fan. Grew up, so I just love everything sports. And so growing up, I collected, and I was thinking about it as coming into this podcast, kind of my collecting career. And when I started, I don't remember ever really collecting for certain specific cards. It was the look. It was always like how cool this card looked, the shininess of it, the colors, and the eye appeal. So that's always appealed to me. And fast forward all these years later, I found myself doing what I'm doing now, and it's an absolute blessing. And I love to create and love sports. So it's found itself kind of meshing at the perfect juxtaposition. So
Very cool. How did you become a Giants fan? Was that a
my
family
dad grew
thing?
up in the Santa Cruz area.
Okay.
So, I mean, ever since I was, I think, like kindergarten, I can remember I had like Giants pillowcases and bed skirts,
Yeah.
wallpapers, and this and that. And I went to like fantasy camps when I was growing up, and like Dusty Baker's baseball camp when I was like
Wow.
9, 10
Very
years
cool.
old. So, super cool memories, yeah. But diehard Giants fan. So we went through the ringer for some years, but we had a couple good years in the last decade. So.
Nice, nice. So how long did you collect cards when you were younger, or like when you played
Yeah,
sports
yeah.
and stuff?
So I did, and that's what I was kind of alluding to. Like I did. I remember I had a friend whose dad's friend. We called him like the Candy Man. He worked. I forget. I don't even know. Looking back, what company he worked for, but he had candy bars and he had cards. And every time that guy came around, it was like I remember wanting a pack of cards or two. Fleer and all back in the. I loved it. I loved it, and I loved
Yeah.
the collecting. Like I was saying, I had my teams, and I had my. I loved. I was a big Will Clark fan. Growing up in
Okay.
Houston, like you liked your Bagwell and your Biggio, the Killer Bees,
Mhm.
but I was more. I remember the chase for the refractors and the cool
Hmm.
shiny looking
Mhm.
cards.
Mhm.
But there was no set or team or person that appealed to me. It was more
Mhm.
the look. Like if that card looked cool to me, it was a cool card. I didn't care who it was or how rare it was or the value of it at all. If it had the eye appeal to me, that's what kind of made it valuable to myself.
For sure. And that's where, like you mentioned, Will Clark. Are you familiar with I feel like I'm going to mention the Provisions every episode, Joe, but the Will Clark
Yeah, go for it.
Provisions by Terry Smith are like awesome. I need to get one of those to
No,
complete.
I haven't. I haven't checked those out.
Oh, yeah. I'll send you like the link to it, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool. It's like custom paintings. It's like paintings of these
Oh,
players,
okay, cool.
and he has one of Will Clark. So it's pretty
Super
cool.
sweet. I may have seen it, but yeah, this super cool. Will the Thrill, man.
Luke, I'd love to ask you a question. And you had mentioned,
Yeah.
that you had, kind of simultaneously bounced back and forth, right, about kind of collecting cards and then kind of also playing sports and this kind of art element as well mixed in.
Uh,
And, I'm a graphic designer, and I collected cards as a kid as well. And it's fun for me to look back and I can kind of draw. It's not quite a straight line. But I can
uh,
see how some of the influences that I had as a kid have influenced some of the things that I work on as an adult, right? As far as my aesthetic
100%.
preferences or some of the same, I really like to work with color, now in my professional setting. And kind of to what you were saying, a lot of the cards I chased as a kid, very colorful, not so much about a single player or not, but just really colorful, fun
Yep.
cards, right? Do you find yourself
Totally.
looking back on specific cards that you may have found as a kid that, like, I really like the look of this specific card, and it's also influenced some of your artwork to date?
That's a really great question, and I would say the one thing that I can truly remember, like just being infatuated with as a kid. I remember, I think we were in San Francisco, and I stopped at like a Barnes and Noble or something, and I was young, and my parents were there, and I was just kind of looking around the store, and I found this massive hardcover book, and it was a book of all of like the old school screen print rock posters. Like those
Wow.
really colorful, really artistic, the ones that they'd use to promote the shows back, whether it
Yeah.
was CBGB's or in San Francisco at the Fillmore, and the just really vivid
Hmm.
colors, really, really grandiose art. I
Yeah.
loved it, and I think I probably still have that book in one of my closets somewhere, all ripped, and the covers are
Right.
falling
Right.
off. And I find myself, I love color as well, and that's the one thing I try to produce in my pieces. That when you see it, whether or not you know the subject matter, you know that it's something that I did just based off of
Hmm.
the eye appeal and the pop of the color.
Absolutely.
Todd Gray is
Mm.
an artist who lots of color and that pop art kind of vision, kind of aesthetic to it. That's I love, and I feel like I've taken not necessarily from the card, the art of
Mhm.
the card so much, but just the
Right.
art in general that I was kind of circulating at that point in my life. And music, another like I said, I loved them. That was cool, kind of that juxtaposition of art and music in those screen print posters. I love that type of stuff, and I still do. We have actually that in my office in the studio. It's just covered
Yeah.
with screen prints because I just love that type of art. So that's
Very
for
cool.
sure probably something I still draw from, just because that you look at those things and you can sit there looking at them. And I know you had talked about in the first episode with the Project 2020 and the Project
Yes.
70 how these artists are producing these paintings on a large scale, and they're shrinking them down to the detail in them. And it's the same thing with those posters. Just the amount of detail is just mind blowing to me. So that's something I really take from.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I love to hear it. Thanks for sharing that. I've got a small background in screen printing, so I'm familiar with
Uh,
the process that goes into that. And you're absolutely right. It's highly detailed, and it's another great example of printing at what's generally considered a larger scale, right, and then shrinking that down. A lot of
uh,
parallels to what we see, in card design to traditional print poster design. I can only
absolutely.
imagine how influential a big book like that would be. I certainly wish I had found
Yeah.
that, at my local bookstore as a kid. I know that would have been sounds
Yeah,
like one of my favorite books as well. Really, really cool, man. Thank you for sharing that.
of course,
Um,
man.
so Luke, you mentioned we were hoping to hear a little bit about your process. And you mentioned like working on huge scale of projects, like, big canvas, but what you're
Uh,
doing is like, doing these incredibly detailed, like some of the art you have incredible shadows on your paintings. And these are big, sports cards. They're not huge canvases. So I'd imagine
yeah.
there's some challenges with that. And we would just love to hear about like your process on how you start and, maybe some of the challenges of working with a smaller scale, canvas, if you will, as the card.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I feel like a lot of the times when I produce these pieces and I put them out, until someone sees me doing it, either in person or sees the physical process, and they realize, oh, that's a sports card, that's 2.5 by 3.5 inches.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a very big canvas to work on.
Yep.
Then it kind of like, oh, that's cool, kind of that it's shrunken down and that's what you're doing. So extremely difficult. Extremely. I mean, some are easier than others, but I think, there's certain challenges, right? So I think when I start any piece, the first thing I'm asking myself is like, why am I doing this, right? So if it's a commission for a customer, if it's for a piece that I just want to add to my inventory, if it's a personal piece I want to do for myself or my daughter, why am I doing it? That'll first dictate what's going to be on that card, because there's some people that will approach me and say, hey, I want this athlete, or I want my BMWs I posted the other day, or my son, or whatever it is. Go for it, whatever you want to do. Those are great, and I thoroughly enjoy those, because then I get to really exercise my creativity. But at the same time, those also, sometimes I like to be told what to do, right? It gives me less thinking involved. I don't have, it's the stress involved of making sure that what the subject matter is on there, it doesn't weigh me down too much. But once I know why I'm doing it, then we can decide what's going to go on that card. And then once the what's going to go on that card, once I start searching for the card to be used, so a lot goes into that. It's the placement of the athlete or the subject matter on the card itself, whether or not limbs are cut off, whether or not words are dragged onto the body, or designs are coming in and interfering with the athlete, the size of the athlete, the card stock, chrome versus regular card stock. So many different things go into it. So once everything's settled upon, we know what we're doing. It's a process, right? The layers. The people reach out from time to time and ask for some help. They're wanting to paint on cards, and they want to know, like, what's the one thing you suggest, or this is very difficult. The paint doesn't seem to be sticking to the card. Yeah. The paint that's the thing I have to continually remind myself is that it's not the same as painting on a canvas. Even if you were to get a canvas and get a canvas that's 2.5 by 3.5 inches, the texture of the canvas itself, the paint will adhere to the canvas differently than it will on these chrome or cardstock cards. So a lot of the time you'll find that the paint beads and doesn't collect where it should. Layers. So I start with, to make my colors pop, I usually start with white or a base layer of some sort of gesso paint. But once my layer's on there, then I sketch. I have my base layer, I sketch what I'm going to be painting on the card itself, and then we just start color blocking from there. The light colors all the way to the dark colors, and end with the lining. The one thing that, when I do the sketches, I'll go on my iPad, I take a picture of the card itself once my first base layer is down, transfer that to my iPad, and then I sketch and I get my ideas from there, and I'll sketch. So once my idea is done, cemented, the draft is done on my iPad, then it makes it, that's where we get to the point where, like I said, it takes the thinking out of it for me, which is once I feel like I can coast from there. Because I know once my idea is done, I know I'll be able to pull it off. I know I can put this on this card and it will look cool. So it's more or less, it's a process. And yes, there's going to be, I wish it were as easy as, okay, it's done. Let's draw it. Let's paint it. It's good. There's so many smears, and because it's so delicate, you're continually turning it in your hand. Like you can see right here, my hand's normally just caked with paint right here because on my board, I'm constantly moving my hand around. And it's just a process, layer after layer. And then if that doesn't work, we cover it up, we go again. And it's just making it work little by little. Each piece, depending on what it is and what we're trying to pull off, it'll take low end 4 hours, high. There's some pieces that were the 12-15 hour mark. It just depends on how much, when there's a 2-card piece and they're sketched and drawn and put together, I mean, the time adds up. But
we noticed that, like, Well, sorry, keep going. But we noticed that on
You're
like your
good. You're good.
on your
Yeah,
Chiefs
the end
Kingdom
result.
piece,
Oh
like
yeah.
that one, like the three, players of Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Kelsey, and then you did like
Yep.
a custom matte frame, which I saw. Like we'll have that on the screen because I mean that's a piece
Right.
of art. That's not like to me. That's not
Thank you.
like, oh, I painted this card. That's like. And that's why, like, I'm having you do a Penny Hardaway one because I'm super excited to
Yeah.
see what you're going to
Yeah.
do with that. These are really
Yep.
cool pieces that you're not just going to like a craft store, grabbing some markers and like, yeah, I'm drawing on a card. Like there's a intricate thought process and concept that you're doing that clearly stands out in the work that you're producing. I mean, it's incredible what you can do on there.
Well, I'm blown away.
Thank you.
4 hours, man. Come on, bro. You knocking these out in 4 hours? That's insane. Incredibly impressive, man. I definitely think that's cool, though. And I hear you when you say, you get to a point where you can let your process take over, right? When you have the card and you have the artwork there, it's like, yeah, absolutely. Bring me my markers. We can get this done. That's got to be an exciting feeling. And that process also strikes me as a bit unique in that you have this kind of area up front where you really do have to think with two tracks, right? What do I want my artwork to look like in this kind of conceptual space? But also, what card do I have to work with? It's like this sourcing element that you have to contend with as well, straight out of the gate. That I think a lot of traditional artists obviously don't have to worry about. They can just go straight to canvas.
Yes, that's a really good point. Absolutely. And that's something that I continue, like as my work continues to evolve and I continue to evolve as an artist, there's things that this year I really wanted to concentrate more on. And one of them was to uh, work on higher dollar cards, right? So I'm doing bigger pieces, kind of like the bigger gambles, right? But I
Yeah.
know that that gamble will pay off because I know that in the end result, like it might be an optic Mahomes rated rookie, but at the
Yeah.
end of it, it's going to be an optic Mahomes rated rookie that no one else has that has just
Right.
crazy artwork on the front. So I'm super stoked to kind of be venturing into that, just to kind of further go into which cards I'm choosing. And that's exciting because I'm really like, I know some people are kind of like,
Well,
you're an idiot or you're cringing, but no, I'm rolling with it. Let's go. I'm excited.
Well, we were curious
You're
about that. Like,
challenging
what's
yourself.
the
Yeah.
highest market value card that you've worked with or are hoping to work with? I saw that you did like a Luka Hoops rookie, and people like, I think it's really cool. You're taking something that is, loved by everybody. Like you mentioned the Mahomes rookie, and people would be like, oh man, I want it as is. But it's almost like
Yeah.
you're then taking your spin on this and creating like this whole new kind of market and genre of what is collectible to people. So
Absolutely, and that's my hope is that there's people that will love the Mahomes optic rookie and love that card, and there'll also be people that love my artwork and love the artwork that I produce. And when that comes together, and you find that person or those people that love both of those things, that's going to be a great addition to anyone's collection.
Yeah.
I mean, it just to have. I know for me as a collector, like take me out of the equation as the artist at all. I love, there are artists that I pick up, cards from, and I know some of the drops are like next to impossible to get anything, and I don't have that type of money to be spending. But it's cool to know, that, yeah, I mean, there are people that they'll dig that, and that's what I'm going to create anyway. That's in me. But to know that there's people that are enjoying what I'm doing and what I'm putting out just kind of fuels the fire to continue to produce and continue to keep up in my game, because I know it's weird, man. With anything that you do in life, the more you do it, the better you become at it. And just even in the last couple years, where I've really focused on doing this, with everything I have and full time, Joe, I know you you can probably relate, but a straight line is not an easy thing to pull off. And I know, the more you do, it's crazy. Just the little things that I've noticed that like, wow, I am improving with these little things, which overall the pieces will continue to improve. So I'm excited for 2022 and where we're going and the trajectory. And, my goal throughout all this is obviously, to support my family,
Right.
and to produce art for. Well, speaking of that, I know she's been come here. You want to say hi? This is a little Cardist right here.
Hey guys.
How's it going?
Say hi. Say hi. Hi. Okay, just wanted to say hi. She's been creeping around. She goes to all the shows with me. She's my VP. But
That's
No,
awesome.
that's perfect.
No,
That's
she-
the first bonus guest on Art of the Card, man. We cannot be happier.
there you go. There you go. Yeah, you're the first bonus guest.
Yeah, that's
She
right.
likes that.
Surprise guest. We
But
love
you know,
it.
so it's to support my family,
Mhm.
pay my bills, but most importantly, like I want as many people to see my artwork and enjoy my artwork as possible. So,
Right.
whatever the means of that happening, I'm just going to continue to create, and man, everything happens for a reason, and it's been a crazy ride thus far, absolutely crazy. So I'm just 2022 is going to be a great year.
Very cool.
That's
Luke,
right. Hey, Chris.
you mentioned doing it full time now. How long have you been doing like essentially what you love? How long have you been doing this full time?
It's it's one of those things where like you come back from vacation and you're like, oh, I went on vacation a week ago, and you keep saying that. Next thing you know, it's like 2 months, but you're like, yeah, last week. You're like, no, it's been like
Yeah,
2
yeah.
months now. I feel like it's only been like a month since I've been doing this full time, but I want to say we're like at 3 or 4 months now.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
And
That's
it's
awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a hard choice, but an easy choice. I was on the road traveling for work, doing project management with the energy lighting company, and like, man, it was tough being away from my girls and being away from home, but not to mention like I would be waking up at 5, whatever, showering, going to the job, working with the guys, coming back to the hotel, maybe getting a workout, coming back, and then I'm at the hotel or the motel desk with the lamp with all my studio with me, and I'm
Right.
painting on the road and these tiny little, and I'm moving every 2 weeks. We're going to a new hotel, and it was hard to put everything I had into it, and but I was still finding some success. So I talked to my wife, and it was one of those, well, if I've already had slight varied success when I've only put in 20% effort into this, like what'll happen if I come home, I'm with you guys full time, and I'm able to really put everything I have into it. And it's been okay thus far. So we're,
awesome.
And it's only continuing to get better. So we're, I'm just grateful to be home. That's the bottom line. I'm a family guy. So being home and taking her to school in the morning and picking her up every day and gymnastics on Monday, it's nice to be able to do that.
No, being around for those moments in between is real important, isn't it? When it comes to family, and that's a huge bonus. To taking a risk, like like anything, doing something that you love full time, and taking that plunge. But I think that 2022 is going to be a great year for you, man. Everything looks like it's off to a great start. Couldn't be happier to hear that that you're off to a roaring start, and you also get to spend more time with your family, which we know is a big inspiration for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I did want to loop back just a little bit on one of the comments that you made earlier about the surface qualities and how that affects the cars that you like to work with. Basically when you're working with I think you mentioned chrome versus maybe one of the other base stocks. And I'm also interested, kind of talking about challenging yourself as an artist, right? And it certainly resonates with me, as you want to try to find ways to level up, right, and continually get better. Is there a correlation there as you work with more expensive cards, right? And maybe you get up to, your optic, really, really nice chrome finished cards. Is there a correlation there with the quality, for the tools that you use, for the markers that you use? Any brands you really try to stay away from, just altogether, just because of production quality, perhaps?
That's a great question. The first and foremost, generally speaking, like in an overall blanket statement, the chrome cards repel the paint more so than a regular cardstock would.
Okay.
You put the marker on and you can see it's almost like the oil on water. It kind of beads up, and not all of them, and some do it worse than others. But that's kind of what I've found, kind of to answer the cardstock question, and especially as it goes up in quality with the cardstock and the markers. For me, it's a trial and error sort of thing, and it's almost like what day is it sort like depending of how it's going to act on you in the certain day. Because for me, overall, kind of for the most point, we're looking at Posca and Montana are the two brands of paint pens and paint markers that I use.
Yes.
There are some brands that make specific colors that I like that will do, do the job. They might not have the same finish, or they might beat up more, because that's the thing too, is you'll find certain colors, you will lay the color down and then it'll almost seem too opaque. So you need to add more paint, but then when it dries, it's cracked. Like there was almost too much paint and it cooled and cracked and dried. Yeah. So then when, that looks, so you have to get rid of that and try to, and it's this continual kind of trial and error with, and it's how certain cards are going to act. I found little hacks that helps the paint kind of take to certain cards better. And it's super weird, even as much as like on a chrome, I found sometimes if I know I'm going to paint on an area, I will literally get my finger and just, as a collector, they're fingerprint. I mean, but you're smearing on that area, and for whatever reason, that paint sticks to that area now. So it's a very willy-nilly process of what colors and what card stocks and how they work and how they're going to dry and look in the finished product. But so that's to answer that. In regards to the getting better and improving and that correlating with the higher end cards, I know what I continually, because I'm scatterbrained, like 1,000% unprescribed, unmedicated, undiagnosed scatterbrained. Like I'm all over the place. But
you're a good company, man.
I know. I know that I tell myself all the time, like I need to work on this. I need to work on this. This is what but I've found that for me, if I find kind of a couple big, I say big, but kind of umbrellaed areas that I can say, I need to work on this, and everything else that falls under that, well, I'll kind of get my chops up. But I've found that if I do that, where I say like my typography, my fonts, I need to work on blocking and spacing, or if I need to like my curved lines, things that I find that I'm either stressing myself out about or I know that I need to work on. If I concentrate on, as my pieces continue, maybe not every piece, but every other 2, 3, 4 pieces, I say, okay, on this piece, I'm going to make it a point to work on this skill that I feel like I need to improve on, because even though it's killing me to do so, because this internal perfectionist in me wants the card to be perfect and to avoid all areas that would potentially give me trouble and not lead to a perfect result. I need to do those things because the only way I'm going to get through them and better at them is to actually just do them. And maybe that piece might not be my favorite, but what I found too is the pieces that I don't necessarily dig and aren't my favorite are the ones that people are like, dude, that's freaking cool, that's awesome. And I'm like, thank you. I mean, that's not my opinion, but then the ones I think are killers, I'm like, no, that's good job, man.
Well, and too crazy. And I think, it's, process is a beautiful thing, right? And once you have your process, established, I mean, you really can't go in there, and you can still have your personal feelings as an artist, for sure. But I mean, that you're producing, what your consumers are coming for. Whether that's a card that you're super hype about, that they're just kind of like, well, whatever, but it's a Luke, it's a Cardist 1 of 1, or something that you kind of feel like, hey, I just kind of did this, just with a whole bunch of other cards, right? You know what I mean? Just kind of knocked a whole bunch out one week, and it was just kind of wasn't anything that really stood out to me, maybe, but that could make somebody's day, and that could be like the absolute card in their PC, and for me, that all goes back to process, right? Because you figured out your process as an artist, and that you can replicate it. And I think that's fascinating. I'm getting a little bit off topic here. You mentioned scatterbrain. I know Chris is staring at our outline and wondering where am I going with this. But I thought it's really unique. We do try to put together a list of questions every episode, and have some around print production and change a few because of you being more of an illustrator and an artist. I had never thought to think about asking questions about like a mobile studio of sorts again, because I'm thinking of most of the people that we're talking to painting, or illustrating at a large scale, or even if they are working at a small scale, working within a studio. Fascinating that you were able to work on the road, man. And again, an incredible kudos, man, for sticking with your dream. But
Yeah,
really
thank
cool that
you.
you were able to kind of take this show on the road. And of course, practice makes perfect. Finding out, like the grease on my thumb works as a great binding agent, right, for the markers
Yeah.
that I want to use on mosaic cards or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool, man, and can't help but tip my hat. You don't have to go into much detail about that. I think just the idea that you could take this on the road and you can really kind of do this on the fly, to a certain extent,
Yeah.
is really, really impressive.
It was neat, the fact that and thank you. I mean, I didn't even think twice about it. Like when I knew I had to go, it's like, well, this has got to come with me.
Yeah,
So how are we
yeah.
going to do this? There are two things that I know. Well, three. I had my lamp, and
Hmm.
what I would get is at Home Depot, and I worked for a lighting company, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
in my truck we had bulbs and tubes, and I had a 5,000 Kelvin bulb, which is bright white light. And at Home Depot they have these metal clip-on. It's like a cord and a
Hmm.
clip-on light that you can use it, and it clips on something, and it
I'm
lights that
familiar
whole
with
room up.
those from like a black room photography
Yeah. Mhm.
exposures. Yes, yeah, people might be
Yep.
familiar with
Exactly.
that same kind of
Exactly.
apparatus. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd have one of those, and at Home Depot, Hobby Lobby, they sell. I want to say it pays $15, but it's a wooden board
Mm.
with like an aluminum trim on the end that I just can put on my table at the office in the hotel, or the desk in the hotel, to where I'm not painting on their table. So I can
Mhm.
take that wherever I go. And I bought at Harbor Freight, there's a wooden carrying case with drawers, and I had about 150 markers with me of all shapes and sizes and colors. And then I bring my case. I have my cards in my cases, and just go. And what's cool though, man, is in a collector, being a collector too, every city that we go to, every town that we go to, you look for your card shops, and I got to meet some really, really cool people
Yeah.
across the states, different, met customers in, Idaho, and good people in Montana, and,
Yeah. Yeah.
people, and they ended up, not only do we make connections, but they have pieces of mine for their collections now. So it's really cool
Hmm.
to kind of be able to, drop little pieces of art throughout the country, which is neat. But with the studio thing, to take it a step further, just something to think about is that a normal artist, or an artist that works on a bigger scale, might have a studio where they have the space to have three different pieces up that they're working on, or two,
Hmm.
or five,
Hmm. Yeah.
because each one of my canvases are 2.5 by 3.5, and they stack very easily, and they carry very conveniently. I can have on my desk right now, at any given moment, there's probably 15 to 20 different pieces that I'm working on that
Wow.
are at some point of the process all over my desk. I'm never working on one. That's all I'm working on, because I
Hmm.
I will drive that piece into the ground with
Right.
overthinking and negativity and stress, because that's all I'm worried about. So when I get stuck, or when I get, I need to let this dry, and I don't want to use my blow dryer or whatever, set it to the side. Let's pull another piece in. Let's reset the brain. Think of a whole different playing field. And I feel
Hmm.
like not only is that a perk, because I could be working on 50 different pieces at once in
Yeah. Yeah.
Bozeman, Montana, or whatever, but I can also, it helps me to not overthink and overanalyze certain pieces, and really um, make them as stress free as possible in the creation of them. So that
What
helps in the long run.
I feel like too, you by doing multiple pieces, you can translate like this worked really well at this technique or this design detail. I'm gonna like make this other piece better because of what I just tested out on this other one. And so it's almost like a natural building block of how you can intertwine all of them together.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
As we were talking about the creative side of me, as we're all like designers in some capacity, and the high
Mm-hmm.
dollar cards stood out, I was thinking a Kobe Bryant, not to go down a design rabbit hole, but I feel
Yeah, let's
since
hear it.
we're a Kobe
Let's hear
Bryant
it.
Topps Chrome rookie that is turned
Yeah.
green because everybody like hates that they turn
Hmm.
green, but
Yeah.
embracing that and making it like a Grinch theme because everybody loves his Grinch sneakers as they're like one of the most
Hmm.
sought after Kobe's. I feel like we're onto something here. So if anybody wants to
Yeah.
donate their Topps Chrome Kobe
Topps
rookie,
Chrome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
address is 87. No, that's cool, and that's the type of stuff I love it. I love it, and that's it's funny. I had that conversation with my wife this morning. I did an Aaron Jones piece last night on a silver optic, just like an optic base.
Mm-hmm.
But those silver optics, they're beautiful cards,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the athlete and who it is. I just think the shine, any silver prism really at this point. But I told her, I'm like, I need to, in the next couple of months, just go and look into my inventory and just buy a bunch of your Brady's, your Mahomes, your Giannis, your Currys, your Trouts, and get silver bases. And the LeBron piece I just did, the tribute #1 that I did on the Prism with the mosaic with the green tiles in it, that was a commission. And that guy, like, certain pieces just end up, looking really, really good. And I told him, I said, man, you got a good one. That one looks really, really clean.
Yeah.
And I feel like to kind of explore more simple pieces, but with those big athletes, those big stars put on those silver prisms. Beautiful. I mean, it's not always the more the better, the more detail the better, because I know a lot of those with the downtown, which I love, there's a lot of detail, but sometimes more isn't better.
Yeah. Well, like
so
your
the simpler.
Josh Allen, the Bills one, for some reason, when I scroll through your page, I look at it all the time. Like, I just think it's cool to see what you're doing. Like that Josh Allen one is awesome. And it's just like a really well executed, like, Bills logo. It's simple, it's clean. And it's just like, I'm from Cleveland. I live in Rhode Island now, but I'm a Browns fan, and I'm like, man, I would buy that Josh Allen. That's cool. So it's just interesting how people will like different things, and you never can expect it. Is there a player that you really enjoy, like, doing a piece for, whether it's because of their, like, style of play or notoriety or the city they live in, that you can tie in different elements, or not live in, but play in, I guess. Does that come into a factor at all when you're thinking about this?
That's a really good question.
Or maybe even colors, right? Like we were talking about, some colors work better with others. I mean, are there certain team colorways that you would rather work with than others, perhaps even?
Yeah, I wouldn't say overall. I know that there's certain color schemes and palettes that I like that work together. So you'll see, if you see some of my pieces, and it's different athletes, different designs, but you're like, that kind of looks, if you look at the color scheme, a lot of the times certain colors that I love that go together really well. Like, there's one that I do that I know it's like a really dark navy that has like a teal, orange, yellow, and the way that those all kind of pop together. I enjoy doing those. The athlete, I'd say it's, to be honest, probably all depending on the relevancy, right? Like, if someone's hot and there's a really cool reason why that person's hot and why everyone's talking about him, it's cool to kind of ride that wave. And like, hey, if we're going to make a piece for Curry setting the record, which I'm doing a commission right now for the record setter, and then or whether it's a UFC fighter winning a big fight, like it's always cool to me to kind of that energy, that buzz that's surrounding it, to kind of let that work itself into the piece, because there's something to be said about that buzz around someone or some team because something cool happened, or because something is on the horizon of happening. So I enjoy. I don't know if that sounds dumb, but it's weird to kind of put my finger on but when someone's relevant, it's really neat to kind of to hop on that.
Well, I think it ties into a theme that I think we talked about it in our first episode a little bit, Joe, or maybe it's the next one will be coming out after this, but like, the cards represent a moment in time to a lot of people. And so I feel like I remember when I pulled Shaq's rookie at a card show in 1992, and it's like, it sticks with me. And a guy that I bought the pack from offered me $100. And it's like, your pieces of art are representing these moments in time. And then also, like, people that commission you to do them will always remember this. Like, I'm so excited. I mentioned briefly that you're doing a Penny Hardaway one for me, but I'm super excited to see this. Like, not only is it a piece of art of one of my favorite players growing up watching, it's like also representing you as our first guest on this podcast. And so it's just going to be very cool to have that in my collection, and could care less of what the perceived value of that card is, or a lot of our cards. And that's kind of the theme of what this whole podcast is. It's to tap into, like, the design of the memories of these cards and not the market value at the time. So
that's great. No, and I appreciate that. I'm excited for the penny.
Yeah.
He's sitting over there right now. He's
Um,
he's under the knife at the moment, but
Nice.
not literally. But I know there's a lot of, and I will say that there's a lot of guys that are doing really cool artwork with the cutting up the refractors and making really cool intricate designs. Really, really neat stuff. I'm not good enough with glue. I could already see myself like with stuff stuck all over me.
And there's we're excited about this because like what you do is different than like somebody cutting up cards, which is also a really cool thing. There's been a few guys that I'm talking to about being on. Card Killer is very well known in the hobby, and he responded, and he's going to be on an episode. We just need to lock in a date. And so you and him are like both different styles, but also like your own unique challenges, stories. So we're excited to like tap into like all of these different types of art that we're seeing, so it's pretty cool. So
that's and KK's a great guy. You guys have a great conversation. Really, really, really good guy. And that's the thing. This hobby, you hear stories from time to time about people doing negative things, but there's so many great people doing so many great things, and they're really trying to help other people. So it's exciting to be a part of it, man. And I know that, like you said, these moments in time and having these pieces, and that's what I enjoy doing them and not reproducing. I know that a lot of the tops, and the artists doing that, and it's cool to get your work out there on a grand scale. But I also feel it's neat to know that you have something that no one else has.
Yeah.
That this is special to you. That this is a unique piece that you can't find this out there. And like I said, it's not for everyone, but there are I feel like now more than ever, art is having this renaissance. In the creative process, and artists are able to not only make art on the fly, but they're able to produce it and for so many people to see it in so many different means of social media and ways of putting it out there. So it really is cool to be alive and doing this right now. It's a pretty neat time.
Goes to one thing that I wanted to ask you earlier, but you kind of segued to it nicely. Was, do you ever like reproduce a piece? Like you do something and you're like, man, I really love this and I want to keep something for my own personal collection. Do you ever like recreate a second one, or do you just keep some that you're like, I'm not gonna sell that one?
Yes, the keep some answer. Yes. I've never reproduced. I don't feel like that would be fair to my clients if I were to make one and be like, that's bad. I'm like, I'm gonna make another one, but keep. The only time that we've done anything like that, and I'm actually currently doing it. So I did a little collaboration with Polwax and Jorge Masvidal, to where I did a piece of Masvidal, and with Polwax we did a thing to where Jorge was breaking boxes, and people bought a piece from me of the prism that I did. So I had to make multiple quantities of them. But what I'm doing with something like that is everyone's just going to be a tad bit different, right? So I can, I'm still, they're all going to be one-on-ones. They're not going to be printed. I'm hand painting every single one, almost identical, but they're all going to be a little different. And so that's one of the few times where I've produced very similar of the same thing for multiple, but everything else is going to be one-on-one. Nothing reproduced.
I think that's an incredible decision to make, to stick to, and again, props to you, man, and everything that you're doing, because, we've seen the hobby really obviously go through this boom in the last year or two. Would have been easy to say, hey, man, let's go print a whole bunch of these Cardist originals, right? And just see if we can't start selling them. I'm sure that guy was on your shoulder, right? Chirping in your ear a little bit. Again, I mean, to stay true to kind of your vision as an artist and for what you want these pieces to represent moving forward, but also, again, kind of that what you sold to someone already, right? Those existing customers and what that means. Man, that's got to, again, as a tough decision as an artist, but one that I can't help but respect. Incredible commitment. And I think, you've got these opposing forces a little bit in the market, right? We see the NFTs and everything that's associated with that. And we see, again, the hobby starting to really ramp up production, right? And I think that there's enough hand wringing about that we don't have to talk about those two elements on today's
Yeah.
episode. But I think that they have the inverse effect of driving up the value of the work that you're doing and other artists like you, where you look at true one-of-one works of art, compare that you can hold in your hand that someone took the time and skill to produce. That value is inherently growing as we see these other factors in the market continuing to do their thing. So again, just a massive hat tip to you, and I think it's just incredible to see what you've done organically to get your work out there. Just by process and by going out there and pounding the pavement. But seeing how this has grown, online too. Yeah, really exciting stuff, man. I just really impressed with that. Really, really impressed.
Thank you.
I think
Thank you.
we
I
can
really appreciate it, man.
come
Yeah.
close to wrapping up, but Joe had a great question that this is easy maybe for you to ask. Did you come up with the name the Cardist? Because it's really cool.
So I did. So
Nice.
and what's crazy about it, and this is me trying to be smart for the long term. So when I came up with it, it was, what can my name be? Like, this is, I need to have some, and I don't mean like me, like
Yep.
what's my business name, right? I can't just be like,
Yeah.
my name's Luke, I do
Yep.
cards. I have to have some sort of thing. So I don't know how, but card and artists, like it came like that. I'm like a cardist. I'm like, that's kind of cool. Like Luke the Cardist, like kind of cheesy catch to it. I don't know, but it has a little ring. And so the cardist thing just came up, it was what it was. But more recently, like I've started following, seeing other people's pages and they're cardists. And I'm like,
Yeah.
kind of cool. Like, it's a thing now, kind of catching on. So, yeah, to my knowledge, I think I was, I came up with it. I don't know what, I'm sure other people have called themselves a cardist. I just don't know what that means. Cause I've told people and they're like, you do magic? Not that type of cardist, but yeah, so it was, we had to go with something, man. But, and in that's the thing though, cardist, in the future, who knows, like if cards will always be the canvases I'm working on. So
Very cool.
We'll see.
Right.
I'm Luke though, so
Well,
that'll
I
never
think
change.
as far as Art of the Card goes, I think we're happy to dub you the original cardist.
Cool.
As far as we're concerned, you know what I mean. We'll leave the door open for what you want to do in the future. But yeah, that's pretty awesome to not only come up with that and then see it out, out there
it's
in
cool.
the hobby, right? People run with it,
Yeah, it's cool. I like I was not. I'm like, oh, yeah. I'd show my wife, like, look at this. This is pretty cool. Like
That's awesome.
other cardists, like I didn't know this was a thing. So it's cool. It's flattering. But if anything, like we need more people. Like art and creating helps me as a person and my soul and feeling refreshed and revitalized and like staying connected with what I choose to believe, my higher power and
right.
my God. But it helps me and it helps me feel and be present every day. So I know that other people could they could benefit from being more creative on a daily basis. So to see more people just doing it and not caring about what other people think and just producing and creating and being artistic, I love to see it. So I try to tell her to draw every day. I'm like, just do it. Like it helps and it makes you feel good. And so I love seeing the more art, the better. The more people push it out there.
Workshop at the National. We need to make that happen. That would be like.
Yes.
Let's do it. I'm actually trying. So I'm going to be, I was supposed to be at the Mint in January. Well, this next weekend, but so Mint was pushed back to March. So I'll be at the Mint. I'm going to be at TriStar in Houston the beginning of February, the first weekend. But the Mint, what's going to be great, what we're trying to set up is I'm going to be doing live art at the show. So
nice.
I'm going to have scheduled times where I'm working on pieces. So hopefully people can walk by and see me actually in the process versus just sitting there like, check out my art. So that's the goal, is to be setting up more live art. So that's one of the things on the horizon. But before anything else, Chris, you look, and the fact that you're from Rhode Island, when I say you look almost identical to one of my childhood friends, and I can't wait to show him this. It's I'm like, this is absolutely insane, man. So,
okay, that's
and he's
funny.
from,
Well,
they're
I'm from Ohio
Massachusetts
originally, but my wife's from Rhode Island, so we've lived here now almost 4 years. But I never hear that I look like anybody, so I'll be interested to see. Yeah,
man,
that's funny.
I'll send you a good picture. It's good.
We'll meet up sometime if you come out to Massachusetts or Rhode Island. Well, good.
Absolutely. And likewise, if you guys are ever in Texas, and I plan on, I talked with someone yesterday, the goal is to be, Dallas Card Show is huge, and huge for a reason. So I feel like moving forward, kind of keep them as my home base in regards to shows and try to be at as many Dallas Card Shows as possible. But when there are shows scattered throughout the country that are worth going to in regards to networking and seeing people and hanging out, like the Mint and like National, then I'll be at those as well. So I can't wait to seeing people all across the country. It'll be fun.
Well, Luke, I live down here in Austin, Texas. I grew up in Ohio with Chris, but I'll be at the TriStar show next weekend with my group Bubblegum and Leather. So we will definitely connect, man. If you've got a plug for anyone that you'll be with, a booth that you'll be at, if you want to shoot out a plug right now, man, for anyone who might be listening, who will be in the Houston area, man, go ahead. I know I'll definitely get a hold of you. I'll find you wherever you're at. But go ahead and let the rest of the folks know who might be listening where we can find you for in the Houston area.
Yeah, so I wish there was a better plug. It was a late sign up because the Mint was moved, but I don't know exactly where my booth is going to be, but I'm going to be there. We'll be set up. I think right now in the inventory, I think we're looking at like 90 pieces or around 90 that I'm going to have there to show and for sale, and just to meet as many people as possible. I'm going to try to do some art while I'm there. We're still trying to figure out the technology side of it with the streaming and getting everything all together. But man, I look forward to seeing you. That's great. And also, I went to school at Texas State, so I was right down the road.
Man. Yeah, man. Floating the lazy river, man. Just doing a little card art. You know how it goes.
It's great, man. Absolutely great. Well, that's awesome. But I look forward to seeing you. And thank you guys again for having me. This has been great. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, everyone can get the latest info on your Instagram as far as next weekend or any other info goes. And that's your preferred way to reach out for any sort of request, right? For any sort of commissions, correct?
Yeah. Like, so I'll post when I have more information on TriStar and where I'm going to be. It'll be on my Instagram. Instagram is going to be my number one source for posting new content, new pieces I've done, information on where I'm going to be, interview stuff like that. That'll be on Instagram. I'm at the Cardist on Twitter. And we have a Discord, but we're still kind of trying to figure out what I'm doing on there. So there's too many things with social media we're gonna try to tackle at once. But I'm on all of them. But yeah, DM if any commissions or requests or just want to say what's up or ask a question. Always feel free to reach out. I'll be more than happy.
So we will put all of Luke's info in the description of this video with links to all his different channels and when you can reach out to him. I highly recommend it. I'm super excited to get my piece from him. I told him I fully trust him, and so I'm excited. I don't have no teaser. We were gonna maybe show a little teaser on this episode, but I kind of want to leave it as a surprise. I don't know. So, all right.
Yeah, at this point, I'd leave it as a surprise. And that's the thing, too, is there are some pieces where it's until I do that last stroke, I'm like, and I do that last, I'm like, okay, it looks good.
Now it's done.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to tip my...
I appreciate it. So thank you for everybody for listening. This is like better than imagined second episode of Art of the Card. Honestly, the comments, the messages on Instagram, everything has been awesome. And hopefully once we get a big following, maybe we'll have to do like a giveaway down the road with one of Luke's pieces or something. If we were to do one right now, it would go to
awesome.
My old boss or my mom, who's watching the video, so who's both into cards and stuff and what we're doing. So, but we'll wait for a little bit more down the road, and we'll do some fun giveaways. So, thank you for everybody listening. This has been awesome, and we'll talk to you next time.